Hello, this is Unlimited Splash, and welcome to episode 5 of Splash Champs, where a viewer plays for a box and I am not allowed to help. You are about to see a viewer named Penny participate in this incredibly punishing event, the Arenadirect. If you get 6 wins before your second loss, you get a box of Marvel Superheroes Play Booster Packs mailed to your house. If you get 7 wins, you get 2 boxes. Most of the time in this event, you don't win a box. And so far on Splash Champs, we have had 4 participants, but no boxes won yet. But Penny has a good shot. They've been drafting since March of Machines. They've won at least 9 boxes in the past, including a collector booster box of Marvel Superheroes. Now, to be clear, in the video that you're about to watch, Penny actually pre-recorded it, but I'm going to watch it back in real time, and I'm going to comment on analyzing their decisions and saying what I would do in their shoes. It's a little bit less crisp than you might be used to, but don't worry, I'm going to explain the relevant cards and also I'll put them up on the side here. So let's go ahead and watch Penny open this pool. One ground rule, by the way, whenever we have a guest on this channel, I do insist on the guest being treated with respect. So before you comment, just ask yourself, am I commenting on a play or on the player? Commenting on a play is very allowed. Commenting on the player is not. Okay, so we have Iron Man armor, which is an artifacts build around, as is Ironheart. We have Mole Man, which is a really weak kind of go wide strategy. Super Adaptoid is a very nice one to open because that card does go in basically any deck that you could want. That's the one that gets a whole bunch of different abilities. And then there was not Construct a Cosmic Cube, Doom Reigns Supreme. I'm gonna need a reminder about what Doom Reigns Supreme does. When a villain, okay, so this is a villain's build around. Yeah, this looks like a very weak bucket of rares. When a villain you control enters, drain the opponent, put a plane counter on it. And then when the 5th plane counter is put on it, okay, this is probably one of the better plans though, but it does need a whole lot of villains to support it. Okay, Penny is immediately going for a blue-white potential build, which is pretty much where you should default in this format. I checked the data last night because I was curious about how things have played out after an entire week of the Arenadirect, which is way more data than we had before. You could imagine that maybe people have figured out how to build sealed builds that are not just Azorius. The scuttle was that Azorius was totally dominant in draft, but maybe not quite so dominant in sealed. And the data tell a completely different story. It is just absolutely dominant, the place to be. It's basically, can I make an Azorius deck? And if you can't make an Azorius deck, what's the next best thing to do? That's unfortunately my honest take on where this sealed environment is at. Okay, so what does Penny have? Double Shield Spy Kit is pretty nice. Double Brave Brawler and double Hero in training. Okay, Penny was not... Sorry about that. Blame Google for that error. Penny was not actually building an Azorius deck. They're actually meticulously going through each color and pulling out cards that are pulls into the color, which I hugely respect. So they've identified Shield Spy Kit, Brave Brawler, Hero in training, of which they have 2 copies each, as well as Red Guardian and Burrow backup in white. Those are already some pretty nice pulls into white. Those commons and uncommons are frankly just about as good as many of the rares in other colors. In blue, Aerial Doombot, Stature. I do love Stature. We Saving A and Frozen in Ice. And then in black, they had a few removal spells like Hour of Defeat. I do like Hydra Infiltration in the format. Okay, so we're looking at Shield Spy Kit, which is the equipment that when it attacks alone, untap it and scry 1. Double Brave Brawler, which is a lifelinker that has a power-up ability and gets larger. Colleen Wing, I'll display these when we're looking at gameplay decisions. I'll display them up here on the screen to make it easier to follow. When we're looking at so many different cards, I'll just briefly say what the relevant ones do. Okay, so Hero in Training, that's the 2/2 when it enters draw card. And then they are thinking about playing the Ironheart, so that's an interesting one. Let's take a look at Ironheart. This is a good one if you have a whole bunch of non-creature spells. Also, it is a 3-power flyer in Sealed, which is a much better category of card in Sealed than it is in Draft. So it does have Improvise, which means your artifacts can help you pay for it. And it also gives all of your other non-creature spells Improvise. And they are also thinking about sticking the Iron Man armor in this deck. So Iron Man armor, when it enters, it's 3 mana. When it enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+1 in flying, so you're paying for a little bit less stats than the mana cost. If it isn't a creature, it becomes a 0/0 construct hero artifact creature with flying, and it gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control until end of turn. So basically, Penny is saying, look, I have Super Adaptoid, I have Iron Man armor, I have Herbie, double Shield Spy Kit, and the Aerial Doombot. Putting all of that together, maybe I just have enough artifacts to make Iron Man armor potentially a chunky enough creature. Maybe it's also good as an equipment to stick on a flyer, or it's not terrible. And then also the shield spy kits and so forth can help you cast Ironheart, and then all of those cards can help you with Ironheart cast your Iron Man armor subsequently. So there are some interesting synergies in here. And now this is exactly right. Now Penny is considering, can I mix in some of these good removal spells from other colors? So there are 2 copies of Hour of Defeat sitting there on the sidelines in black. So Hour of Defeat is the 3 and a black destroy target creature surveil one at instant speed. Really fantastic card in sealed. I mean, the more that you can get unconditional removal packed into your deck in sealed, the happier you're going to be. And they actually do have, is that 1 copy of Fisk Tower? Yes, they have 1 copy of a black-white dual land. There is in terms of fixing, there's blue, red, black, red, and green, white. So if you're starting in red, you could splash into black. I mean, those are pretty bad fixing colors. I will also note, I do see a copy of the Baxter building. That card, they've left it on the sideboard. It might just be that they don't have enough to justify running that one. But it is a way of filtering and also drawing a card if you have a chunky creature. But okay, because I'm not recording live with Penny, I cannot do the usual post-build interview with them. But this is their final deck. So they have We Saving a Frozen and Ice and Atlantis attacks stacked up on the left as, I think that's probably their removal pile. And then they're also running the double Hour of Defeat though. Deep Power is kind of removal in a certain way. In terms of creatures, they have 4 good 2-drops and 2 good 1-drops. And then their 3-drop slot is quite strong. And it's much more of an aggro deck than anything else. I mean, if you look at the curve, it's kind of centered on turn 3, but you're really hoping to have put down like a creature and a shield spy kit, and then just back it up with some removal. Now, a few weaknesses of the pool. I mean, first of all, you have basically no rares, unfortunately. So, I mean, you know, Ironheart and Iron Man armor don't really count. I do think that Super Adaptoid is strong, but what does it have? So this is the one that when it enters or attacks, you can give it basically any evergreen keyword that a target creature has. And so you can take it from the opponent's card. So you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of keywords on your cards. But it does raise, you know, how good you expect it to be if you have a bunch of keywords. And Penny has Brave Brawler with lifelink, a few creatures with flying, Ariel, Doombot, and Herbie, and Ironheart. The Burrow backup tokens have Vigilance, I believe. The Flying Ant has flying, and Captain America has Vigilance. So there are a few keywords to support it, but not the best supported I've ever seen. There are also not that many legendary creatures, which is where Super Adaptoid gets its power from. So I would say another weakness of the pool is in blue-white. A big strength of it in this format is the amount of flying that it has access to. And Penny only has 3 or so understated, 4 understated flyers. So I absolutely think Penny was right to go with blue-white in this pool, and splashing the Hour of Defeats makes a huge amount of sense. Their mana is a little bit not perfect because, look, they have the black-white dual land playing 2 swamps. That's 3 pips for 2 different cards that each have a black pip on them, which is 1 less than you would usually do for 2 different cards that each have a black pip. The usual rule of thumb would be about 4 ways of producing that mana, and I'm not seeing a 4th way of making black mana. However, they have a Burrow backup. So that essentially counts. And then you might even get away with shaving a swamp. I would be tempted here to shave 1 more swamp off because you have a decent amount of card draw, like Deep Power. Okay, maybe not that much card draw, but you also have Herbie and also the Shield Spy Kits for scrying. But I actually think Penny's doing the right thing with 4 ways of producing plus your scrying card draw. Hero in Training is card draw. If I would put anything on the chopping block, it would probably be like the Iron Man armor for just a generic creature, but I don't know that we had another creature that we could put in instead. If I were rating, I mean, I think the deck building was excellent. If I were rating the pool, I would say like 4 out of 10 kind of sealed pool. All right, so with that said, let's jump into game 1. As we jump into that, though, I do want to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking me, which is, how do I get considered for Splash Champs? How do I get to be on the next one? So I've recorded or scheduled all of the videos in this series. We have probably 1 episode left after this one. But I have absolutely loved doing this. I've loved getting to know different members of the community, and I will absolutely do this again. very likely the next time there's an Arena Direct, we'll do at least one episode of Splash Champs. The answer for how to be a Splash Champ is I am going to post in the announcements section of my Discord whenever I'm considering doing another video like this. So that's how people got in this time. They saw that announcement. It was first come, first serve, and there was way more interest than I could support. So I only recorded with maybe like a third or a quarter of the people who said that they were interested, and that's doing 5 full videos. If you want to have the best chance possible, I want to draw your attention towards this channel at the bottom here called The Members Lounge. If you become a member of my channel on YouTube, one of the perks is you get advance notice of event signups. I have some reserved slots for channel members, which just gives you better odds of being on a series like Splash Champs or Draft Review video if you do become a member. So that's a perk of being a member. When you sign up, you go straight into our Members Lounge channel, and that's where I'm going to announce some of these things a little bit in advance. So that is how you get the best chance possible of being on Splash Champs. Having said that, I do want to emphasize, I will still have slots for non-members, so you don't have to pay to play. So don't worry if it's not in the cards for you to sign up and become a channel member. But if you do, you will have a better chance of being included in videos like this in the future. And I'm going to try to make sure that I cycle through a variety of channel members so that different channel members are getting chances to be on videos like this. All right, so thanks for bearing with me, and let's see if Penny keeps this hand. It's a little bit awkward because we got one of our 3 black lands. So now, however, you do have a white 2-drop and also a colorless 2-drop. So you can play 2 of the cards in your hand. This is like the definition of a borderline hand. I do agree with the keep, but I would also totally respect just being a little bit risk averse and throwing it away. Conventional thinking is if I can play a 2-drop and I have access to, basically if I can play a 2-drop, probably I'm leaning towards keeping, but obviously very, very conditional decision. And so far, Penny is getting a little bit in a risky spot from this. I do think that playing the Brave Brawler first makes a whole heck of a lot of sense here. Okay, and then the opponent has played a Patriot Shield Wielder, and their very own Super Adaptoid. So what it's going to do is their Super Adaptoid is immediately going to get lifelink from our Brave Brawler, not something that we could have known we were supposed to be playing around. And the Patriot Shield Wielder actually is kind of annoying because it gives the Super Adaptoid hexproof until end of turn. Whoa, they just offered a trade? Okay, I'm actually quite surprised by that. Hexproof, I guess, is not one of the keywords that Patriot Shield Wielder can gain. Oh, of course not, because you can't target a creature that has hexproof. Okay, but now we play our own Super Adaptoid. This is really funny. The Battle of the Super Adaptoids. I'm just going to keep this guy up here because I feel like it's going to be relevant no matter where this game goes. Okay, down comes a Wakandan Drone Flock. It enters the opponent's Scries 2. Now both of these Super Adaptoids are going to be able to gain flying. Opponent attacks with their Super Adaptoid because that's the main way of gaining flying. Actually, yeah, that's true. Not both of the Super Adaptoids are going to be able to gain flying. Okay, this is so funny. It just immediately devolved into shenanigans. So Penny is right now having difficulty with not having access to blue mana. There's a question about using your red Guardian. Do you hit the opponent's Super Adaptoid or their Wakandan Drone Flock? I think it has to be the Super Adaptoid. That Super Adaptoid has a lifelink, and it's about to have similar power to the Wakandan Drone Flock because I believe Red Guardian Super Soldier is a legendary creature, which means it's going to become a 3/2, a 2/3 rather, the moment that the Red Guardian hits the battlefield. Okay, and down comes a Wiccan Rising Magician, or whatever it's called. Oh, interesting. Penny said, no, I'd rather just hit the 3-power creature. It's very possible that the thinking there is that they do not want to just be run over. Like the 1 power really matters while Penny is trying hard to draw that extra island. Get that extra 3rd color there to unlock most of their hand. Down comes Spider-Woman, which is presumably going to lock down our Super Adaptoid. Pretty annoying. We don't really have an answer to that. Super Adaptoid has nothing left to oh, you can... No, that doesn't do anything. Okay. I was thinking with Wiccan, maybe you can do some kind of flickering of the Spider-Woman if they want to lock something else down. But all right, we have just drawn our beautiful island. So what are we going to do? So you can Frozen and Ice onto Wiccan. Okay, why is Penny doing this? Wiccan says when you cast a non-creature spell, exile another target non-land, non-token permanent, bring it back at the beginning of the next end step. So if you put Frozen and Ice on anything other than Wiccan, then you actually are risking Wiccan just blinking whatever you put the Frozen and Ice on. Also, it's just a 4-power flyer, which is very dangerous to our health at this moment. So Penny scryed with the Red Guardian because that comes with absolutely no cost, puts the Hero in Training on top, which I think makes sense because it's going to gain you HP and also put stats on the board and also let you draw whatever is next up after that. And we can double spell. So 3 good reasons to keep that one on top. We are getting beaten down pretty magnificently, though. And by magnificently, I mean horrifically. I'm not sure if we can survive the next turn, so we might have to be doing some chump blocking. We're going to get hit with 3 in the air, probably. Well, almost certainly. Oh, okay, here's an interesting decision that Penny was just thinking about. If you play Stature... Oh, maybe I've misunderstood. Even with Super Adaptoid up, it's the number of legendary creatures you control, not the number of legendary creatures in play. Okay, so their Super Adaptoid did not gain +1 HP from playing the Red Guardian, and also it did not just gain +1 HP from the Stature. My bad. Okay, so there was no decision there. Playing the Stature just made sense. You're also not bluffing any combat trick for 1 blue, I don't believe. Okay, so income 3 attackers. Yep, I think you just trade off the Hero in Training. It makes good sense. Avengers Assemble. Okay, I mean, that's just grotesque. That is just grotesque. It does not buff the Super Adaptoid, but it buffed Spider-Woman enough to win. So Avengers Assemble, that's the Flash and heroes you control get +2/+2. And then it also has, you draw a card. basically not even hidden under any condition. So sadly, we are now 0-1, but we'll get them on this one, won't we? All right, so we start out with a Shield Spy Kit, We Saving a Frozen and Ice, Iron Man Armor, and no creature. I mean, I think our deck is aggressive enough that I'm very tempted. Look, I'm always tempted to keep in limited, but I feel like with 0 creatures, what is the goal? Like, best case scenario, we can pay 5 mana. Well, best case scenario, we just draw a creature. But paying 5 mana for an Iron Man Armor to be a 1/1 is like pretty risky. So Penny says, you know what, I'm in a betting mood and I'm just going to keep it and I'm just going to hope that I draw a creature, and down comes Super Adaptoid. So I guess another way of thinking about it is, hey, in our highly aggressive deck, well, not even that highly aggressive, but in our pretty darn aggressive deck, we just have a good shot at drawing a creature pretty soon. And it definitely paid off. I would have mulliganed, but this one paid off. And also, you know, if we did anything that caused us to lose in the last game, good thing we have always saving A for this War Machine, then it would have been keeping the hand and not mulliganing it. And so maybe Penny was kind of in a well, actually, this was a keep that I probably would have mulliganed. So maybe that tells me something. Maybe I'm a little bit too eager on the mulligans, which I actually already knew about myself. Okay, but now we play Super Adaptoid as a 1/2. It is not able to gain prowess. It's not a keyword that it can get. It did make sense last turn to hold up We Saving A instead of Super Adaptoid, I think, because the opponent is on 3 mana, you know, and there's just a lot of ways that they could remove our Super Adaptoid and keep the attack rolling, or they could just play a creature and just win by normal magic by just rolling over us. Okay, but we did, by the way, find our Black Pip, so we are going to be able to play Hour of Defeat if we want to. It does make it a little bit awkward that we cannot quite attack with that Shield Spy Kit, but what we can do perhaps is attach the Iron Man Armor onto Super Adaptoid, which would make it a 3/3, and then put the Shield Spy Kit on, making it a 4/4, and then it gets to untap and scry, if I've done my math correctly. And also, it also gains flying. Actually, can it target itself and permanently gain flying? I think so, right? So no, choose another target creature. Darn. It cannot permanently gain flying from itself. Atlantis attacks. You know, a little bit slow. We're not going to be able to teamwork it, so I think it's one that it does make sense to put on the bottom. Also, we really want redundancy in terms of creatures, and a 7-mana 6/5 is probably not the creature that we're looking for here. That's an annoying one, but thankfully we do have 2 different pieces of removal for it. That card is Jennifer Walters, one of the more frustrating ones to play against for me personally. So just because it comes down on turn 2 and it just blanks so many of your good answers to it, opponent can't cast spells during your turn, and then it flips into, they do need a green to do this as well as 2 white, but it flips into a Hulk. Okay, so what's all this stuff that's happening here? Super villain lockup onto our super adaptoid. That's a little bit annoying. At least the Iron Man armor does turn into a creature, so it's not like we're on no creatures at all. It turns into a 2/2, which is not nothing. For me personally, look, you do not have to kill the Jennifer Walters right now, because you don't really have elaborate plans that involve casting things on their turn. And you also do have the Frozen and Ice to deal with it later on, and they do not have the mana yet to transform it. So for all of those reasons, the Jennifer Walters can be allowed to live for a little bit. Nick Fury, so I wonder if the opponent is on a 5-color special, because they have the incentive to have green mana to be able to flip their Jennifer Walters. So then it's only 2 more colors to also flip Nick Fury. Okay, so down comes Agent of Atlas. We can also flip the Iron Man armor. Okay, or we can equip it. Yep, sure. And then we can also put a shield spy kit on it if we want. The other thing that we might want to do is just hold up the appearance of a We Saving A, but it's not like the opponent has, I think you get very little advantage from that because the opponent does not have anything in their hand, so it's not like they're holding something special. So for Iron Man armor, we would be able to pay 2 and turn it into a 2/2 until end of turn. So I do think that it makes a whole lot more sense to just give the Agent of Atlas flying and make it a problem for the opponent. I also like Penny's strategy of holding this Frozen and Ice for a while, and now it's going to pay off. Oh, it does look like we missed a damage on the Prowess trigger, though. I don't know if that was a strategic choice by Penny, but we could have gotten an extra damage there by playing it before combat. Okay, so in goes the Agent of Atlas. And then we're going to scry. Oh, I would put the shield spy kit right on top. Yeah, because now any creature that you have is going to get ultra suited up for one thing. It makes any creature draw really good. But also the Iron Man armor can now wear 2 different shield spy kits, do double scrying, and the shield spy kit is an artifact, which would give it an extra power. So it gives you a nice extra little redundancy plan here. Oh yeah, and it's a prowess trigger. So all right, well, very nice. Wrap that one up in a neat little bow. And Penny's strategy of just playing some creatures and having some removal really paid off on that one. Very nice. All right, so unfortunately that brings us to 1-1. Unfortunately, we did previously drop a game. I will also note we did not have audio working for the deck building in first 2 games, but I believe that we will have audio from here on out for the rest of this game. Okay, this is looking like a keeper, much better than the hands that we've had before. Our first easy keep of the entire event, and very, very nice. We just drew a something. Well, actually, we already had the Aerial Doombot to play on 1. Okay, but we drew another option for turn 2. Now, the question here is, do I play the Agent of Atlas or do I play the Shield Spy Kit? Okay, so it looks like Penny says I'm just going to take the Shield Spy Kit, slap that down. I'm going to suit it up onto the Doombot and attack with it. So we're doing this instead of playing the Agent of Atlas, which is so normally I would make the opposite decision, right? I would just tend to develop my board rather than like further investing in, equipping the one creature that I have out. I think there's a different reason that Penny is doing it this way though, which is playing the Shield Spy Kit does ramp you into Ironheart. So Shield Spy Kit here is basically a ramp piece. It's going to make the Ironheart come down faster than it would otherwise. Okay, so now we can probably just go land Hero in Training. Could also be land Captain America if we really value the life gain. Probably also the stats on the Captain America really matter. Okay, so on the other side of the battlefield, we have an Arnim Zola. Penny is seriously thinking about playing Agent of Atlas and just equipping the Shield Spy Kit, which also makes a lot of sense because then if it eats removal, you're a whole lot less sad about that. It also makes your hero in training slightly better because you get the 2 life gain later on. Okay, they just correctly read that the opponent had a Dark Deed. That is the -4/-4 as an instant in black. So Penny has been baiting out the opponent's removal. Now here's something interesting. They did decide to play the tap land, but I believe instead of that, they could have played, no, not Ironheart Chimera. They could have played Ironheart Clever Champion, right? They could have played the Swamp and ramped out the Ironheart. I probably would have tended in that direction just because I think we've probably soaked up a lot of the opponent's removal at this point. But actually, it's kind of really looking like Penny has other plans for the Ironheart Clever Champion. I wonder if now their idea is to play the Super Adaptoid first. And then you can kind of get a huge discount on the Ironheart. Well, 2-mana discount on the Ironheart. Okay, down comes Everyone Has Spider-Woman, and that card is absolutely busted. I mean, that's basically a bomb. Oh, that's so funny. Captain America's ability would untap him. Okay, but it can't be untapped. So Super Adaptoid, okay, we can still target the Captain America and get ourselves a Vigilance. A Vigilant Super Adaptoid. Okay, now we draw the We Say Thee Nay. So Arnim Zola is 3 and tap, create a 2/1 black villain creature token with Menace. Activate only if there are 2 or more creature cards in your graveyard. And they currently have 0 creature cards in their graveyard. Turns out to be one of the worst cards in the sealed format. Okay, so now you can equip the Shield Spy Kit onto Super Adaptoid and attack. But Penny actually... Excuse me. Penny actually has a different plan, which is hold up We Say Thee Nay, which is probably much more value. So that makes a ton of sense. Next turn, we're going to have an interesting decision about whether we want to equip the Shield Spy Kit. Well, we may. If we draw a 4-drop, then we'll have no decision. But we may have an interesting decision about whether we want to equip the Shield Spy Kit. Here, it's just absolutely priced in that you have to We Say Thee Nay with Teamwork, because otherwise... Oh, now that's interesting. Now that is interesting. A very minor issue here. We actually could have gotten the Shield Spy Kit onto Super Adaptoid and attacked. I did not see this before. But because Ironheart gives all of your non-creature spells Improvise, we actually could have put the Shield Spy Kit on Super Adaptoid last turn, attacked with it, untapped the Super Adaptoid. Then we would have had 1 blue untapped and Super Adaptoid, also Ironheart, untapped. And then we could have used one of those to improvise out the We Say Thee Nay. So we actually would have gotten in an extra damage and a scry. And that could have been a pretty big deal because we would not have drawn this Plains this turn, which was a wasted draw. Having said that, I did not see that at the time. So totally understand. Seems like Penny didn't see it either, and I can totally understand why. Okay, so now we do get lifelink off of the Night Nurse, which is totally awesome. Captain Marvel, are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? It's unreal. It looks like they do not have enough to give it indestructible, though. I seriously think I'm a curse. I think going on Splash Champs is a curse. Be warned if you're trying to get on Splash Champs. It seems like the Splash Champs have incredibly bad luck. Okay, but now they're investing a Claw because we did draw the Plains. So we do still have some hope here. We need them not to be able to give that thing indestructible, that Captain Marvel. Okay, so Iron Man armor actually does let us attack through Captain Marvel, right? So Captain Marvel, Earth's Protector, that card is a flash flying lifelink card that if you can afford 7 mana, which they put in as 1 away from right now, then you get to put a +1/+1 counter and an indestructible counter on it. They did not block with Captain Marvel. Wow, they really wanted to be indestructible, presumably, is the reason. But looks like... okay, they drew the land, so they can make it indestructible. Now they're swinging in with Night Nurse to get some lifelink off of this. Wow. Brutality. Okay, but it's still a very close game. It's still a very close game. They're putting on the lifelink counter because... they want to do that before we get a draw. So now what they can do is they can block the 5/3. Red Guardian does not help here. So they can block the 5/3, killing it. Gaining 6 HP, going to 10. Oh, attacking. Depriving themselves of the ability to block. That seems very unwise. Oh, it's because they got a Herbie. It is because they got a Herbie that they decided to do that. So I was just going to say, if we draw like Hour of Defeat for that Herbie, we're not quite winning. Iron Man armor. Let's see. Plus, so if you had a way of getting an extra artifact, you would be able to deal lethal here, but we don't have that. Okay. Yeah. So we do get to Surveil. So we're going to crack in for 9. That means that the opponent cannot attack next turn with Captain Marvel. Hopefully we get something juicy on top. That is not something juicy. Wow. We face down Avengers Assemble, Captain Marvel, 2 different Spider-Womans. So we have to be attacking with both flyers here. We get to untap them. Sure, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, okay, putting the opponent down to 1. So if they attack, they go up to 7. I really don't think that they can attack. I mean, maybe it makes sense that they attacked last turn. Oh, they can now activate their Arnim Zola to get a 2-1 with Menace. Maybe it makes sense because they have put Penny on the back foot here. Now, I don't know if the same thing happens again, though. If they draw Herbie and decide to make the same attack, and then we can draw a removal spell, then we're winning. Okay, so this is pretty rough stuff. They're attacking with a whole bunch of cards. I mean, it definitely looks like they might have a combat trick here. If they have Take Up the Shield, for example, we are just straight up dead. There's nothing that we can do about that extra lifelink. So tense moment, I 1000% agree with Penny's decision not to block. We just need, I don't know what our out is, but we need to find something. What do we have? Oh, Frozen and Ice would be an out, for example. Yeah, that's true. We do have the Red Guardian that we can just land. I guess Super Adaptoid keeps things close because we can get... Can Super Adaptoid get indestructible? It can at least get lifelink. Stolen Stark Tech making it... So that was their combat trick, making it indestructible. Wow, the opponent loves having indestructible cards. Wow. Youch. Now we are in a pretty tough position. Drawing another land after we already put a land on the bottom. I would say there's basically nothing that we can do here, right? So Penny's just clicking through some priority. What is Penny thinking about? So if we can find Frozen and Ice, okay, maybe here's one thing that you could do is re-equip the Shield Spy Kit onto the 3/2 Vigilance and just swing in. It does give them an extra 6 HP, but it fixes your next draw. The idea would be if I cannot get a Frozen and Ice, then I'm not winning this game. So I just need the card selection. Having said that, throwing away a creature to give your opponent 6 life does not sound worth it to me. So I would not be on that train, but just trying to figure out like what are some of the lines that you might be thinking about if you're in this spot. My hope is home. Oh no. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, folks, unfortunately. All right, folks. Well, Penny got hit with a pretty bad pool from the beginning, did what I think you probably should do when you have a mediocre to bad pool in this format, which is just put together the best Azorius deck that you can. And they also splashed for removal, which made a ton of sense to me. And then what can I say? I mean, they really got hit with some of the best rares in the set. I thought that in that last game, we were cruising to a victory, or at least on a very good trajectory. And then down comes Captain Marvel. The opponent has enough mana to make it indestructible. You draw cards that destroy things, but nothing you can do at that point. So a huge thank you to Penny for being on Splash Champs. Again, I believe that we will have one more shot for a box, one more Splash Champ if all goes well. I assume that the next Arena Direct is going to be in August with the release of The Hobbit, I'm guessing. Okay, no need to guess. I just looked it up, and actually there's one next weekend for Avatar, which is pretty cool. I could supplement my Avatar boxes back there that I won when the format was fresh. So if you do want to be considered for that one, first make sure that you join the community Discord and keep an eye on the announcements channel. If you want to up your chances, then it won't hurt to be a channel member and see the slightly earlier announcement in the members lounge. All right, huge thanks again to Penny for participating in Splash Champs, and I'll be back on Monday with a Marvel draft. So until then, have tons of fun playing Magic, and don't be afraid to splash.